All right, now we're good.
Hi everyone. So it seems like since we got the enhancement subgroup proposal approved, we have yet to bring back to the TUC an update. So I'm hoping to use this session for that. So for all those who aren't aware, the enhancement subgroup was proposed as a task force to help clean up our Istio features, where we really want to make a dent into our overall momentum, where we can actually see features graduating or being deprecated. And as we're doing this, we want to create processes to ensure that there's smoother sailing in terms of our enhancements process moving forward. So since we got the subgroup tentatively approved, we have met 5 times since, and we are going to continue meeting roughly twice a month. We're going to set that to be the first and the third Monday, not to clash with the TOC moving forward. And we have had really good attendance from TOC members like John, Lynn, Mitch, as well as other contributors, especially even new contributors who I haven't really seen participate in the working group. So that's really good. Everyone has been pretty opinionated and collaborative. We have decided that we can get stuck in creating processes without actually seeing forward progress. So moving forward, we want to balance um, moving features up and out with the creation of the processes. So a good, pretty much, we don't want to do anything without having a feature attached to that work. So right now we are trying to improve how do we graduate an API. So therefore we have the telemetry API as our feature that we are working with to get insights and to pretty much use as a example when we are creating the processes. We hope that the processes we create will be a living document in the enhancements repo, along with automation tools and other stuff. And most importantly, just as a place where the community know that if they want to do something, they can go reference it or update it based on their experience. We really want to build a culture of did you face any friction as you're trying to do something? If can you come back and update or provide guidance so the community can learn from it and ensure it doesn't happen again. um let's see what else. I noticed, are you all seeing a doc? Mitch, do you mind sharing the
Sorry,
doc?
what,
I just, is everyone able
you
to
want
see
the doc or the enhancement subgroup doc?
just the meeting agenda right now?
Okay. Yep, I'll get that up.
Sorry, I had these notes in the meeting agenda, so I know y'all are just listening to me. Okay, so where we are, we would like the TOC to suggest to us a feature that we can work on for graduation or deprecation moving forward. Right now, we have already selected telemetry API as that feature that we want to take to beta based on different priorities that different contributors has brought up. And we are actively working on that, and we should see that being completed hopefully soon. And as we are working on this, we are hoping to put on the TOC radar that we are looking for a feature to deprecate. We don't have any strong opinions in the enhancement subgroup around what that feature can be. And we are hoping that the TOC, with your context and your idea of the direction of Istio, can provide us with a feature to deprecate, hopefully by the last meeting of the TOC this year. This will help the enhancement subgroup plan our own milestones for next, well, at least the first half of next year, where we are hoping to use that feature that you'll identify for us to go through the process of deprecating, actually driving it, as well as creating the process documentation and tooling that we get from our learnings and actually doing it. So that's pretty much an update of where the enhancement subgroup is as of right now. If for more information, which we will get into as we progress or complete the telemetry API, one thing that has come up is the fact that we need more opinionated guidance around how do we actually want to graduate a subset of fields in an API. It's been pretty gnarly, especially since we are sort of doing like a field level promotion. And it's not a blocker for promoting telemetry API, but we have created it as something that needs to get done moving forward, in the sense that we should have a strong opinion on how we want this to be done in Istio to ensure that we are clean, like our enhancements are super like clean and not like a pitfall of like deprecated fields that aren't going anywhere. So yeah, that's my update. Any questions? I hope this is valuable, and I hope this is our first time bringing back our progress to the TOC. So I hope to do this more frequently, and if there's anything you would like to hear from the enhancement subgroup specifically, please let me know. But so far, we have had really good interest. We have had regular attendance, and we are just working on having clear milestones and making sure we are progressing and actually creating value. And that's all from me. But the one ask that hopefully by December 11th, we can get some opinions around like what is a high priority feature that we should carry through the deprecation process, whatever that actually looks like. We are not sure. I'm sure it will be specific to the feature situation. Anyone has any questions? If not, I can pass the mic over to Mitch.
Whitney, with regards to the feature to deprecate, are there any parameters that we should be aware of? Any particulars that you're forward?
We haven't come up with any parameters. We just know that we would like to tackle this in the beginning of next year. And ideally, it will be indicated by like project priority, maybe something that has shown that we don't want to move forward with, especially as ambient becomes our priority. This is actually going to be a learning process as well, because we want to understand how we can identify features that should be deprecated too. So this is an opportunity where we can brainstorm together, or like at least share, be very detailed in like why did you select this specific feature. Oh yeah. So in our last subgroup meeting, we did brainstorm a couple of features that may be up for promotion, and the Istio operator was like the strongest potential from our perspective. And let's see, the biggest rationale behind that was the fact that there certain Kubernetes operators have like their own strong opinion of how they should go about doing some things. And because of that, there's like active usage of Istio in operator. And we'll have to figure out how to navigate that. And maybe we can discuss that more in this call since there isn't any more agenda items.
Yeah, so we've left the operator on the table for a number of years now, even though we've said that we weren't going to be actively improving it other than occasional bug fixes. And the reason for that was that we had, when the guidance came out that we wanted our users to move predominantly to Helm, we had only stopped giving guidance that they should be using Istio operator perhaps 6 months prior. And so to avoid whiplash, we said, if you're on operator, that's fine. It's just not going to be the platform of choice moving forward for Istio operations. So I do think that maybe now with a few years behind us, it would be a bit more palatable to work towards upgrading or deprecating rather the operator. We did hear from a few users in our Twitter spaces over the last month or two that it is better to kill a feature that people love than it is to milk it along for years without proper support. That they would rather hear a decisive and definitive this is not going to work anymore than have something die quietly. So that's sort of influencing my thinking along these lines. On the flip side, having just given a demo about upgrading and operating Istio using Helm charts, I found it to be substantially harder than I expected it to be. And I want to make sure that we have a fully supported and well documented method for installing and upgrading Istio that all of our users can take advantage of. If there are features in the operator that have not made their way forward into Helm, I would think that would probably be a prerequisite for deprecation.
That would be real useful if you have notes from that process, Mitch. I remember hearing you going through it on one of the calls a couple weeks ago, but yeah, just to include this as part of any proposed deprecation process of like viable replacement and what's missing for it to be a suitable replacement.
Yeah, I can answer both of those, I think. So to Keith, why do we not formally deprecate it? A few reasons. One, we had a lot of churn in the install space, which got a lot of hate from the community. So it was seen as better to not do anything than to keep changing stuff around. We didn't have a migration path or feature parity. And yeah, those were the main reasons. I've been thinking about this a bit recently, and I think I see kind of a possible path to feature parity. So I can write up what I was thinking around there, and we can see if that actually gets us there. I won't explain on the call because it's kind of jumbled in my head and it's hard to explain in words right now. So, but I'll create an issue and we can discuss further there.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
In terms
it
of
seems
Helm
like-
parity, go ahead, Whitney.
No, you go ahead, Mitch. I was gonna pivot the conversation.
Well, in terms of Helm parity, the most substantial thing that I found that was missing was our use of profiles. Used pretty extensively in the documentation to say, for instance, if you're installing ambient, you do so using the ambient profile. Likewise, we have a demo profile, which is great for getting a Istio environment in 5 minutes or less, but is super dangerous for production. And then we have like a hardened profile for production users. I don't think Helm has really a concept of profiles. Oh, okay, that's already on your list. Well, then I don't want to duplicate conversation.
You can have a concept of profiles. It's like the lack of a well-defined API instead of the schematized values, right? Like, for example, operator and HTOCTL both can use the operator spec. Helm right now relies on the values, which is not as great as using a operator spec, but maybe John is going to tell me that that's what he's going to do, take the spec and convert it into values or something for feature parity. Which is fine. That's where we are going. But you see, that's the fundamental problem, right? So we can create a profile, which will be a codified set of values to start off with a better template than just one, the default values. But still, it's not going to be as good of experience as is with the operator spec, I think.
I mean, I presume Istio could emit a values.yaml based on a well-defined profile, right? So we could still couple.
Well, and since that's a one-time transition, I'm not so worried about it being an Istio. Like long-term for GitOps workflows and the like, Istio is a really painful tool to have required dependencies on. But if this is a one-time migration from an operator file to a values file, I think that's a great place for it.
I think that's the problem Neeraj is pointing to, right? Either you want operator to be an API, right, that evolves and grows and fields get deprecated and other things get added, as opposed to, hey, I ran it once and I dumped it into a YAML file and then I went through 3 different Istio versions and it didn't get run again.
Right. What are we going to maintain long-term, Mitch? Is it the operator spec? or the Helm values or both. Currently, we are in a state where I actually don't know. I'm assuming the Helm values are getting up to date nowadays, but there was a phase in which Helm didn't get a lot of love.
And it might just be cleaner to just flat out kill the operator and maintain some set of profiled values.yaml right in SCM somewhere. And I'm going to guess that John's desire is for something slightly more sophisticated along those lines, but
Yeah, it's almost that, but the issue then is you package Helm charts as in some HTTP repo and then where to get the values. But I think there's a way we can shove them somewhere. Just need to work out some of the details. But I think long term, we could probably kill the operator, make Istio a extremely loose wrapper around Helm for compatibility, and push users towards Helm and feature parity in Helm. So there's probably a lot of small things we need to do to drive in this direction. So we have kind of a half issue open right now, but I was planning to tackle that a bit more.
So, quick question, Mitch. In your interactions with customers, like, did being able to specify the installation through operator spec or the operator API, was that a differentiator, or no one cares about it? As long as
I mean, they wanted a path forward. If they've heavily invested in operator spec, they want to know that that investment can carry over into Helm Repro. I didn't get the sense that it needed to continue surviving after a migration. It was just, don't make me manually translate my existing operator spec into a Helm's value file. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And we have just come a full circle in Istio, like we normally do.
Yeah. So I can show, like, for the particular problems of profiles, Argo actually has a decent solution, and I think it might be viable in Flux as well. This is what I was demoing last week. So we've got our normal Helm chart, and we're using, in this case, the CNI, where it is it? CNI chart. And then for the values manifest, we actually go to our Git on the main branch, which is probably not ideal. This should be versioned and etc. But we just go to the ambient values.yaml file, which under the hood is what's used to create the ambient profile for Istio control and the operator. So a pattern like this, if we documented it well and had these values versioned, etc., could be viable for replacing profiles in Helm. It's a bit ugly.
Yeah, but so just riffing on this thread a bit. So it looks like as quickly as possible, we would like to at least stop support for the in-cluster controller or the operator. Deprecating the operator spec itself is like a subsequent next phase, right? Is there a, because I think that's where we want to give users some time window and comfort level, because anyways we are not adding functionality to the in-cluster operator as far as I know for some time. Is that aligning with you, John? That rushing to deprecate the operator spec is not the main goal?
Yes, I think it's mostly making Helm better and killing the in-cluster operator.
Yeah, because
yeah, and it would be nice if we can converge the code base to be more Helm based under the hood, but that's internal.
Yeah, that's
code,
internal.
so that's not a
Okay, makes sense to me. Thanks.
Just 2 points on that front, right? Obviously, vendors are going to run in cluster operators, right? We expect that to continue, right? So we have this implicit requirement that if vendors are running in cluster operators, Istio has to work with that. Right, so we have to make sure that we capture that. I know of at least 2, possibly more. And then in ambient, right, we still have, as part of the specification, right, for Gamma, Istio itself must be an operator for waypoints, right? That also, what is going to be using Helm to manage waypoints. right? So it's only for control plane revisions and possibly for gateways, but not for waypoints.
The
And even
waypoint-
then for I think even gateways, right? If we use the gateway API, right, we're supposed to self-operate.
Louis, I think that we should have a longer conversation about the future of operating the based on the waypoint API. Technically, it's a controller, right? So we take waypoints
Yeah,
as
I
an
mean,
input. We write deployments as an output. There's some things that I think users will want to control there in terms of the shape of the deployment that are difficult to do, but not impossible with us being a controller or the sole controller. For instance, right now, if you scale up a gateway, our operator or our controller will scale it back down to 1 for you. You're welcome. So that makes HPAs non-functional. Likewise, vertical scaling doesn't work. So there's a number of things that users may want to do with the gateway in terms of customization. And we should find a story for how that will work. Maybe it's done with us as a controller and them being able to customize templates and whatnot using config maps. Or maybe it's just simpler to say, hey, if you want to take over, here's the Helm template for turning waypoints into gateways or waypoints into deployments, etc.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we obviously need to work there. That was what gateway class was envisioned to do, Mitch. Right, I don't know. We're probably going a little too far down this rabbit hole for this conversation.
Yeah.
I think my meta point is right that we're always going to have some form of self-operation for the data plane.
Yes.
And just making it very clear that Helm and install is for mostly control plane.
I think that's great.
I guess one of the other questions, and this is maybe a little more theoretical, but right, a lot of the feedback around the operator was the lack of control before, and also the ability to integrate into CI/CD processes. That was viewed to be better with Helm. Our job is to make Istio simpler, and we've been making progress on that. How simple are we going to be able to get our install over the next 2 to 3 years? Or at least in the context of ambient, how simple can things get? Do we have a kind of North Star for simplicity, both on the install side and the component side?
I just want to chime in quickly. Did you guys know Cilium 1.14, they added a feature to allow Cilium CLI to take Helm value.yaml, which is one of the key simplification they made. I use it. I think it's pretty cool. I definitely think it would help simplify our installation story as well. If
Lynn,
we can
what
do
is
something
Cilium
similar.
I'm not familiar with Cilium CI. Could you help me?
It's just their CLI. I think it's just called Cilium.
The CLI, the command line.
Yeah, CLI. So basically you can install Cilium using Cilium CLI. You can also install Cilium using Helm. What they made it interesting is in 1.14, you can use Cilium CLI to install Cilium by feeding a value.yaml. So I think, Louis, you kind of touched, maybe we could potentially have our Istio CLI, Istio Cuddle also taking value.yaml. I think that would really help bridge people who love value.yaml.
Well, actually, I was talking about the other way around, that having Istio CLI output the profile specific value.yaml, but
Oh, okay. So I must misunderstood you. Thanks.
but no, it's an interesting point.
The goal is the same, right? That one way or the other, you shouldn't be stuck on a given installation or operation method based on whether you chose the Istio operator spec or a Helm values file. They should be portable across all supported methods.
Yeah, I mean, we need to just make sure, exactly, right? So what is the API that customers will be using to install Istio and customizing it, right? If we are eventually standardizing on Helm values, then all the tooling need to converge towards that. And they can be in this dual mode for the longest time, where they still honor Istio operator spec. But it looks like we are passively agreeing that Helm values is that API, because previously there was a lot of contention that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, so I think what we're saying is Istio Cuttle could take either an Istio
Exactly.
operator resource or a values.yaml.
Right.
Um,
That's hot stuff. Yeah.
And also, if you don't want to use Istio Cuttle, you can have Istio Cuttle emit a values.yaml from an Istio operator resource or a template.
Yeah.
Based on a profile.
I think all of those tooling options are going to really help simplify
Yeah,
the UI.
so all roads lead to values.yaml and Helm.
Yeah.
I guess is.
Okay, I'm not going to bring this up here. Why the change of hearts for everyone? Because a few years back, I was the lone warrior fighting for Helm values.
Just accept victory and move on, Niraj.
Uh-huh. All right, I'll shut up.
So Whitney, how does this feel? Are we providing enough direction here? Are there areas that we need to define better for you?
This is great. And it seems like we are all in agreement that the in-cluster Istio operator is our best bet for like driving that to deprecation. That's all I need. And it looks like, yes, it is. So we should be good moving forward. And from what I gathered, John is taking up the task to do the feature parity. So we'll probably work in conjunction with John around like the deprecation.
And Whitney, I assume you're familiar with our deprecation policy, which we've never had to review because I'm not sure we've ever used it, but it'll get its first real exercise in a long time here.
I actually don't think I ever came across it. Let me see. The most I've seen, we have stated in our features stages what should be expected for deprecation, but I haven't seen like an outline deprecation policy.
Okay, I'll have to dig pretty deep into history, but I'm pretty sure we have one somewhere.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Are we looking for other candidates for deprecation?
Right now our capacity is to manage one, but I think this is a conversation we should keep on continuing. And it would be nice to have like a pipeline of candidates for graduation and deprecation.
Did the operator go to beta? I can't recall. It seems like it did because I recall when we told people to move to Helm, they complained that it was alpha. I don't know that we ever solved that problem either. That might be irrelevant in this problem
Are you
in this
asking
space.
operator? Yes, it is beta.
Okay, then in that case, Whitney, I've just dropped a link in the chat that describes our beta deprecation policy for beta features. It's not super strong, but we should follow it. We should also check in on the Helm maturity. If that's not already beta, that's going to be an awkward
I
message
think
to
it's a
send.
beta.
Okay,
It's
great.
beta. Yeah.
So can I ask this one quick question before we move off this topic? So currently, do we actively update and maintain the Helm values? Because in the docs, if I remember, we still point to a very old version of Helm values, like pointing to an earlier version of Istio.
That sounds concerning.
At least that used to be the case. I'll find out again. Maybe it has changed recently. Okay. So there might be like work to be done if you're gonna actively promote Helm values from a documentation point of view also.
Well, the nice thing about this conversation, particularly for the enhancements group, is I think we're seeing that deprecation and promotion are two sides of the same coin. In order to be able to deprecate one thing, we're going to need to make sure that other things have been promoted properly, etc. All right. Anything else for or from the enhancements group subgroup?
Nothing else on our end.
Well, Whitney, thank you for driving that. Your leadership there is very much appreciated, and it's cool to see some progress being made.
Thanks for having us. This was actually a really great conversation. I hope we continue bringing back our feedback.
The enhancement subgroup was all that was on the agenda. Are there any other topics that we need to address? Our next meeting is in a month. All right. Well, in that case, I think most of us can get back to sleeping off the KubeCon hangover. And we'll see you probably on Wednesday for the community meetings.
See you all later. Bye.
Yeah.